Good morning, everybody. It's Jeff Goldberg for the Sales Pro Network. It is Friday, October 4th. Welcome to Q4. If I could give you a quick piece of advice before we introduce our guest for today, get going now. You have 3 months left to the end of the year. And if you have not come close to achieving your quota, if you're not at least 3/4 of the way to achieving your quota, right now, actually 3 months ago was the time to get busy, but you still have some time. Get some help from your manager, hire a coach, read a book, do something, because you don't want to get to the end of December and go, man, I didn't hit my quota and I don't know why. There's still some time. And remember, we've got the holidays coming up. There's going to be Thanksgiving and Christmas, and people will be giving you excuses. So really, now is the time to get busy if you are in sales. And if you're in something else, I'm not sure why you're listening to this podcast. At any rate, I'm a sales coach and trainer. I work with individuals and organizations to help them increase their sales. And I founded the Sales Pro Network to elevate the profession of sales and give salespeople a tool that they can use to network, to learn, and earn more money. And if you've been with us before, you know that every Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern, I either do a live training or a live interview with somebody who can add value to the profession of sales. And today is no exception, my friends. Today's guest is a Psych K facilitator. She helps people change their subconscious beliefs that prevent them from achieving the highest levels of success. She's the founder of Aligned Consciousness, and it's my pleasure to introduce Judy Kane. Good morning, Judy.
Good morning, Jeff.
I'm happy to see you today, Judy, and I am excited because you and I have spoken before. I'm excited to have you share your brilliance with everybody. Can we start with maybe just a 2-minute background? You know, what brought you up to this point, and then we'll get into all kinds of questions about what you do now.
Sure. My main background career-wise was in IT management. But I saw this process that I use now work with a former husband. And it was, it really impressed me because in 5 minutes, a pain that he had went away. So it was very effective. It didn't come back. And it's a very straightforward process. It didn't require me to interpret messages or move energy. It's a process that anybody could do. And so I got intrigued with it because of the potential for it.
Wow. And you know, to go from IT management into what you're doing now, it's kind of a big jump.
You would think, but looking backwards, it's not that far removed because, you know, in IT, people have systems that they want to change, right? They're not doing exactly what they want. And with the subconscious beliefs, it's kind of the same way. Things are showing up that aren't exactly the way people want. And we figure out what changes are needed to make it what they want. So not that different.
I got it. Well, I know when my computer's not doing what I want it to, which is quite often, I just smack my monitor. It doesn't change anything, but it makes me feel better. And I'm assuming that we're going to do something different with subconscious beliefs, but let's get into that. So
yeah, people.
Well, why don't we start with what are subconscious beliefs and why are they important? And also, where do they come from?
Sure. Well, when we come into this world, we're little sponges, right? We have to populate our subconscious based on the environment we land in.
Kind of like a brand new computer that has nothing in it?
Exactly. Yeah, you got to build the operating system. And so we come in and we get these beliefs from immediate family and institutions and organizations and all the places that impact us, basically. And we do that until we're about 7 years old. And by then, we've got most of it there. You can pick up subconscious beliefs at any point in time, or as I know, you can change them. But most of it's there by the time you're 7. And the reason it's important is that is the background, that they lay the groundwork for how we perceive everything in our world, right? Perception is reality. So the subconscious beliefs are the way we perceive events and other people and ourselves. And it controls about 95% of our behavior. So it's important. You know?
I would say so. Can you give us an example of a subconscious belief?
Sure. One of the ones that a lot of people can relate to are conflicting money beliefs, right? I mean, money is a measure of success in most people's opinion. But we frequently grew up in families where you shouldn't want more than you need, or it's the root of all evil, or you have to work really, really hard to get it. Or,
it doesn't grow on trees.
Doesn't grow on trees, or you don't want too much money because we don't like the way the people we know with too much money act, right? We're not like them. So
Hmm.
you can grow up with these conflicting beliefs, and the subconscious can be protecting you from those ill effects of having too much money. So it will work against you in some cases. While you're consciously trying to earn money, your subconscious is going, no, not good to have more than this much.
So we're trying to earn more and more so we can do the things that we want to do. But when money is the root of all evil, which is not even the original quote from the Bible, but money, it's the love of money is the root of all evil. But
Yeah.
if we believe that money is the root of all evil, even though we think we're trying to make more money, our subconscious is preventing us from doing that because we don't want to be evil, right?
Right. Exactly.
Hmm.
Or you don't want to be spending 24/7 working for the money, right? So you don't want to be successful because that would mean that you have no life.
Yeah, I actually want to work zero and have lots of money.
There we go. Yeah.
That's my subconscious.
That's your
That's my
conscious.
conscious
That's
belief.
your conscious. Yeah.
Okay.
No
I
telling what's in the subconscious.
I caught myself. So what is Psych K?
It's a process to help change those beliefs. It's a pretty straightforward process. It's a fast change process. I can usually help people change any one belief in less than 5 minutes. Now that doesn't.
Wait, before you go on, wait a minute. So I'm 69 years old. You're telling me I've got something since the age of 6 and you can change that in 5 minutes?
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, it's very fast. And I always want to make sure people understand a lot of situations are caused by more than one belief. So you won't necessarily get rid of a whole situation with one change of belief, but each time you change one of them that's contributing to the situation, you're making it better.
Huh. So as opposed to like a psychologist, you don't work with people like every week for years and years and years.
Not on the same issue, no.
Gotcha. Okay. So how do subconscious beliefs show up in our lives?
Well, you look for patterns is the best way to see if they are getting in your way. I mean, they're your default system, so they're everywhere. But if there's something that's not the way you want it to be, you look for patterns to see if that might be what's causing it, right? Patterns in relationships, patterns in stress over situations or things that you think you do or don't want to do, patterns in always making this amount of money, but if you make more, you lose it again. You look for the patterns, and that's a real good clue that there are subconscious beliefs there that are contributing to the problem.
Can't relate to any of the ones that you mentioned.
Oh, okay. Good for you.
So, for example, maybe dating the same woman, they have different bodies and different faces, but the same woman over and over who really was my father and who I eventually married. Well, I didn't marry my father, but,
Yeah.
that would be an unconscious belief that's holding me back.
Yeah.
Because that's a pattern that you're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where were you 50 years ago?
I wasn't doing this.
Right. Got it. So what are some of the common beliefs that people have that keep them from being successful besides money is the root of all evil?
Okay. Well, a lot of times there's an actual fear of success because it can be too expensive for you. In other words, you might think to be successful, you have to work all the time. So, your subconscious will put the brakes on success because it's protecting your work-life balance, maybe. Or it can be a fear of being seen or heard because it's really important if you're going to have your business and be successful that you can stand up, be seen, and have your message heard, right? You need to be out there influencing people. You can have a fear of failure, which means you won't try things if they seem like too big of a risk, which is very limiting. But, people grow up in different families. If you grow up in a family that said, well, let's try it and see what happens, or sure, you got to do it lots of times before you get good at it, then you're not as risk averse for failure. But if you grew up in a family that thought failing was a bad thing, you're not going to take the chances. So, so there are a lot of things, fear of failure, fear of success, the money beliefs always, those are always very complicated for people. Scarcity is another big one where if you believe that there is not enough of something you need, money, time, other resources, clients, you're not going to see them because if you don't think they're there, you won't find them.
Would I'm not good enough, or I don't deserve love, or I don't deserve success. Are these more of what we're
Those,
talking about
yep,
here?
those are more. Yeah, those are on the what I was talking about, some of the fears, but you're right. We've got the self-worth types of beliefs that can limit you, can keep you from sticking on your priorities, maintaining your boundaries, feeling like you deserve it. There's all sorts of things that can show up that make things difficult, and people tend to blame themselves, say, I'm not working hard enough or I'm not smart enough. They think it's something that they have more control over, right? And a
Hmm.
lot of times they don't, which is why I like to get places where I can speak so that people understand there might be more working against them than they are aware of.
So instead of, well, to make more money, I just have to work harder, or I have
Mhm.
to work longer. That may not be it at all. It may be that there is an unconscious belief about money and success that no matter how hard you work, or how long you work, or how smart you work, it's still going to hold you back.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I guess the question then is there anything that we can do now to start changing those patterns so they no longer run our lives, and that, the ones that don't serve us?
Yeah. The first thing I do when I work with a client is ask them what's going on and what would you rather be experiencing, right? A lot of times people can't answer that second question. They know what they're trying to avoid, but they haven't really spent a whole lot of time thinking about what they want.
Hmm.
So the people who want to try this at home, they can't do Psych K at home, but they can try this, is get very clear on, if there's a situation that's not going the way you want, first of all, get really clear on what you really do want it to be, because a lot of times we just know it's not this. And, so get clear on what you want, and then start thinking up examples of how that would show up in your life if once it's true, right? And immerse yourself in the example, see how it would look, how it would sound, how it would feel, and get really clear on the emotions you'd be experiencing once that was true for you. A lot of times I've seen that shift things.
Hmm. So instead of the thought, I can't believe I have another bad relationship, it's like, I want to have a great relationship, and here's what that looks like.
Yes.
She'll be this and that and the however you define it.
Uh-huh. And
It's like,
and this is how I will feel in that relationship. A lot that's really hard sometimes.
I was just thinking that's almost a scary thought. I mean, what would it really feel like if I was in the relationship? I'm just using that one as an example.
Sure.
Can't imagine why I would bring up that one, but what would it be like if I was in the relationship that I imagine or that I dream? I hate to even say it, but kind of like in a Hollywood movie. I'm not sure if that's realistic or not, but abundant love and acceptance and support and all that stuff.
All
So
that
is
stuff.
that the type of thing you're talking about?
Absolutely. Yes.
Got it. I want to talk about something else that I know you're passionate about, and I talk about a lot with my clients when I coach them about sales, and that's head trash. Uh,
Yeah.
the example I always give about head trash is that usually around April and May, I get a bunch of calls from people telling me, "Hey, Jeff, I need your help because summer's coming, and you can't sell during the summer."
Right.
And I always ask them the same question, which is, why can't you sell during the summer? I know the answer they're going to give me, but I need to let them say it. And they always say the same thing, which is, well, you can't sell during the summer because everybody's on vacation. Now, I didn't take a vacation this summer. I took one last year during the summer, but I was away for 10 days. That's still plenty of summer. So to me, you can't sell during the summer is an example of head trash, because if you think you can't sell during the summer, I agree. You're not going to be able to. You're not going to attract the right clients. You're not going to prospect enough. You're not going to do the things that you need to do if the thought in your head is, why bother? You can't sell during the summer, or you can't sell after Thanksgiving. So are we talking about the same thing here? Is that the head trash you're talking
Yes,
about?
absolutely. And that's frequently how I introduce myself in networking groups, is I help people take out their head trash. And you're right, it's that scarcity thing and some other things, seasonal beliefs and that type of, but like I was saying with the scarcity, if you don't think it's there, you're not going to recognize it if it runs over you.
So are subconscious beliefs and head trash really the same thing?
In the way I speak about it, yeah.
Gotcha. So what are some of the signs that our subconscious beliefs are really running the show and it's not really us?
Those
I
patterns.
mean, our subconscious beliefs are part of us, but what are some of the signs we can pick up on?
Those patterns that I was talking about of, if you're always self-sabotaging, right? Procrastination, that's subconscious protecting you from the, ill effects of succeeding. Right? You're there, always running out of time. Because if you don't think there's enough time, there won't be. But it's not because there wasn't enough time. It's because you're filling the time with the non-priority things to make it true that there's not enough time. Yeah. But it's looking for the patterns. And anytime there's a pattern of an emotional response to things or relationships or business outcomes, that's what you're looking for. That the ones that you don't want. It's still subconscious patterns when it's working for you too, but you don't want to change, you probably don't want to change those. You want to change the ones that are not working for you.
Gotcha. So yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned time because, I work with salespeople and sales leaders, and the biggest complaint, well, I take it back. One of the biggest complaints, one of the most common complaints I hear is, Jeff, there's just not enough time. Now, we all have the same 24 hours in a day, and some people seem to accomplish a heck of a lot each and every day, and some people don't get anything done. What's the difference? Is it a subconscious belief that we have about time itself?
Yeah, it is. And it can be other things. It can be if you don't believe your priorities are as important as other people's, you can let their priorities take up your time. That's a self-worth type of a situation where, you got your day all lined up and 3 people ask you to do things and their stuff goes to the top of the list. That's a self-worth. Probably it's a self-worth belief that you've got that's working against you. But it's the other one's the scarcity belief that there's just not enough time. And you will find ways to make it true when you believe things, right? So, well, I'll just take a second and do this other thing. When you get distracted and you fill it with stuff that's not moving the needle for you, and then you do run out of time because you knew you would, because that's what you believe.
So it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's like,
Absolutely.
I don't have enough time. And sure enough, see,
Yep,
couldn't get it done because I did X, Y, and Z. And I find that quite often salespeople, who are typically the people that listen to this podcast, they have a bad relationship to time, and they tend to value their prospects' time way more than they value their own. I don't think they're doing it consciously, but it's kind of the way we've been trained. Well, we're talking about subconscious beliefs, unconscious beliefs anyways, but it's kind of the way so many of us were trained at least many years ago, which is, bow down to the almighty customer or prospect, respect their time. It's why I tell salespeople, never start a meeting by thanking someone for their time. Most salespeople will walk in, if you're the prospect, Judy, thank you so much for your time today. I know you're busy. I'll get right to what you want to see. Here's what I've got for you, blah, 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 blah. And in my mind, when you thank people for their time up front, what you're doing is you're elevating them and lowering yourself. And I personally can't figure out why somebody would want to do business with me if I'm lowering myself in their eyes. I need them to appreciate me, trust me, like me, respect me. Otherwise, why would anybody, in my particular case, why would anybody trust me with the future of their sales, whether it's with an individual salesperson or the company I'm working with, if they didn't respect me? And by thanking them for their time up front, I think I'm lowering myself. In fact, my goal is always to have such great conversations with people that at the end of the conversation, they thank me for my time. That's how I know I did a good job. When somebody thanks me, wow, Jeff, thank you so much for your time. To me, that's the deal. So can you speak a little to that?
Yeah, I love that, because that's exactly what I'm talking about and on topic. If you think that their time or attention or any of those things or needs are more important, that's an indication that you do have a lower opinion of yourself, the value of yourself and what you're adding to it. And I love the way you put it up there, because you want it to be a win-win, right?
Of course.
You want to appreciate your clients and you want them to appreciate you, and it should be equally valuable to people.
Yeah. Oh, I respect my client's time.
I'm sure you do.
And I respect my prospect's time, but guess whose time I respect more? This guy.
We have to be strategic about it.
Yeah, because I only have so much time that I can do my work and still enjoy my life and do all those things. So yeah. And I was very fortunate when I bought my first house with my ex-wife. I walked across the street. We were looking at that. We had just, decided, okay, we're going to buy the house. And we just, we're standing outside with the real estate agent. She's shaking our hand. And I looked across the street and there was one of my brand new neighbors out there. So I walked over to introduce myself, and we had a nice conversation, lovely gentleman. And at one point I said, hey, I'm kind of embarrassed, but this is my first house. Where do you buy a lawnmower? And I'd never bought a lawnmower before.
Yeah, right.
At the lawnmower store. At any rate, he looked at me like I had not 2 heads, but 5 heads. And he goes, why would you want a lawnmower? I said, well, I'm moving across the street. There's my big front yard. I've got a big backyard. I got to cut the grass too. And he goes, Jeff, I'm going to take a wild guess that because you're moving into this neighborhood, you do pretty well in life financially. I'm like, as any Jew would say, I do okay. And he said, look, if you can afford in the house in this neighborhood, you're doing okay. That's for sure. Take a look at what you charge per hour or what you earn per hour. He didn't know at that time that I own my own business, but I do know what I charge per hour. And his point was, you can hire a company that'll come in and do your lawn in like 10 minutes. 5 guys will pop out of a truck with 16 lawnmowers and they'll get the job done, and you pay them whatever you pay them. And his point was, it's going to be way less than if you spend an hour in the hot sun sweating with a lawnmower that you just went to Sears to buy. And that really taught me, for everything I do, I should be taking a look at, is it better if I do this or pay somebody else to do it? It's the same reason I have a VA today. I can pay her $10 an hour to do all the stuff that I don't want to do and that I'm not great at anyways. And I can focus on the things that I want to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You got to take a look at those things and set your priorities. I mean, and that's part of the time thing is being clear on your priorities. I mean, again, it's the clarity, what do you really want to be getting done? But yeah, you gotta to value your own priorities and the things that are important for getting you to where you want to be.
So would that indicate I have a subconscious belief about an unconscious belief about time, and that's actually a good one?
Yes, I would.
My belief is my time is valuable. It's worth X amount of dollars per hour, and I'm going to focus on the things that bring me in those X amount of dollars per hour, rather than the crap that I don't want to do anyways that somebody can do way cheap. I make it drop more than $10 an hour. So it's just a smart financial move, and it feels better to me to not have to do the stuff I don't want to do anyways.
Right. Now, I don't get into the good and bad thing, though. I mean, it's what you want and whether it's matched up, right? So I have no judgment on what people want to be true in their life. But if that's getting you where you want to go and you feel good about it, then that's what your subconscious beliefs are supporting you in that.
Well, that belief helps me spend more time on the beach sipping tequila rather than doing grunt work.
Absolutely. Yeah.
There was something I saw it was either on your website, I think it was on your website, or maybe in some of your posts that I wanted to ask about because it sounded fascinating. What is the future flow method?
All right. So it came to my attention a year ago, maybe, that a lot of people don't even know how to dream big. Their beliefs are so limiting that they can't even imagine things being so good past a certain level, right? And so I put together a program that would help people get that big dream and clear all the stuff between where they are and that. Typically, the first group of people that I started working with, they came to me because they had something immediately that was not the way they wanted. And I still see lots of people for that, right? But that's kind of like working with the present, and sometimes more often clearing out things from the past. These are patterns they've seen all along. And then I added in a monthly program where people come in, we just deal with whatever came up in the last month. Right. They're over all the big things that were showing up. And now they have a Judy list they bring in each month. And we just work through the Judy list and to keep them going in the direction that they want to be. This future flow thing is, all right, so let's take a look at what's out there in front of you and get the biggest, craziest, what would be the best situation you could ever imagine. And identify what the things are that feel like they're keeping you from that, so that you can flow forward into your future dream.
And what popped into my head when you said that was, what would be great? Hitting Mega Millions for about $450 million. That would be terrific.
Yeah.
So if I was in that group, I could come and say, yeah, what would be great would be hitting Mega Millions for $450 million.
Probably wouldn't get to the how of it, because you can't, I don't think we can, I don't tell people we can control lotteries.
I was ready to join the group immediately.
Yeah, that's not what I advertise, but but the things that are keeping you from that goal, that's what we work with.
So more like if I make $300,000 a year and it's like $350,000 a year, that would be life changing, or whatever the number is. I'm just making up numbers. So that's more of what people come in with for these.
Yeah, and once they start thinking about it, they'll start noticing that there is this discomfort, or there's something not lined up with it when they start really investigating what all the details are of what that future is going to look like. That's what we go for. Those are the indications that they've got some subconscious beliefs that aren't in line with that goal.
So the key is, how do we align our subconscious beliefs with the goals that we actually have?
Right.
And that's what you work on with people.
Yeah.
Yeah, got it. There was something else I read. I always do research when I'm going to interview folks like yourself, and I read their blogs, and I go to LinkedIn and stuff like that. And several months you blogged about the difference between panic and gratitude, and it was because you had from what I read, some pretty horrible issues with your computer that were causing you stress. Can you tell us about that? I find it fascinating.
Yeah. Because a lot of times my blogs are drawn from my life, right? Either me or clients, but often it's my life. And it's like, ooh, there's a good topic that I could talk about. And this was one of them. My computer just looked like it had lost almost everything in it, which was scary. I do a pretty good job of not getting panicked because I've got tools, right? I can work with myself with my process and kind of keep the anxiety level down. But still, it's an alarming concept that your computer could be missing everything that it had the last time you opened it up. And I have IT support, and their solutions sounded very drastic, and I was hoping we could find another way to solve the issue.
And you have a background in IT.
I do, but I'm not desktop. So my career was not going to help me with my laptop.
Gotcha.
Other than I don't have a fear of trying to figure out what the problem is, right?
So like the rest of us humans, you were a little panicked?
Yeah, absolutely. It was like, and everybody can relate to some situation where they think something awful has happened or is getting ready to happen, and your whole body is like, there's tension, there's chemicals going through your body that are not helpful, and you feel extremely stressed out. Maybe your breathing isn't great. You're very high anxiety level.
The tightness in the chest.
Yeah. All that
forehead,
stuff. Yeah. And so then I started trying to Google what other people had done in this situation. And I found a recent suggestion that I tried, and eventually it worked. And all my stuff came back, right? And it was like the relief was just, it's a physical sensation. It wasn't just like, well, I'm glad that's done. You could tell the body was unanxieting itself, right? It's not a word, but you could just tell the physical reactions were changing in the body, which is interesting, because I don't usually have that drastic difference that I noticed, but this was distinct. It was something I used as an example in the blog of people go around, and if they're in a state of stress all the time, their body is reacting to that. Those hormones that are going on are not good for you. They will cause physical symptoms eventually, if they haven't already. And that relief is changing it. And all of those reactions are based on your subconscious beliefs, your perceptions of what the situation is and what it means to you, right?
Gotcha.
So it can make a huge difference to you if you can identify and change the beliefs that are causing those high stress reactions.
Got it. And what was the answer that got your computer working again?
It was to keep restarting it until it worked. And I did it I'd already tried that, but this was like, just keep at it. And it's like, I got, nothing to lose here. And I'd almost given up on it. And I said, okay, one more time. And I kind of visualized the result I wanted, right? Of, I'm going to restart it and everything's going to show back up on my desktop. And I'm going to check the size of the files and it's going to look like everything is back. And that time when I restarted it, that's what happened.
That had to be a huge, just, the release of stress must have been phenomenal.
Yeah.
When I went to work for a company, I don't remember what year it was, but I had never used computers before. That's how long ago this was. I never touched a computer. And I was hired as the co-national sales director. And they said, well, Jeff, we use computers here. You got to know how to use a computer. I said, I've never used them before. What do I do? So I'm here in New York. They flew me out to the headquarters in California, and they had their head MIS guy, which is what IT people used to be called, manager of information services systems, work with me to teach me how to use computers for about a week. And I remember it like it was yesterday. He said, look, here's the most important thing I can possibly teach you about using computers. Anytime something's going wrong, before you pick up the phone to call me, reboot. Something looks wrong, reboot. Anything no matter what, just reboot and then call me. And I actually found that 50% of the time, rebooting solves the problem.
Yep.
So you just had to reboot and reboot and reboot.
I did. Yep.
Amazing. I'm always curious, and I know that the audience is always curious about, where people get their clients and their business from. What prospecting methods do you use? How do you get clients?
A lot of times I work with coaches because they'll have clients that are stuck in the coaching programs, and I can help get those clients past the barriers so that they're successful in the coaching programs. And then the client feels good, the coach feels good. I feel good because I really love helping people. So that's a win-win-win in my book. So that's, frequently how I do it. Some coaches have me in their programs just automatically, and most of them refer out as needed if they have somebody that just, they're blaming everybody's blaming the client, right? You didn't work hard enough. You didn't do the things we agreed to. And they might not have done the things they agreed to, but it was probably not for lack of trying. It's probably a belief or two that were getting in the way.
Got it. So you just said something interesting in my book, and you actually wrote a book called Your Four Truths. Tell us a little bit about the book.
Yeah, that was interesting. It wasn't on my list of things to do, but I've become very passionate in trying to get the word out to people that, there are these subconscious beliefs and they are creating their reality. And if they aren't what they want, everything we've been talking about, I just want to raise awareness of it. So the book seemed like a good idea. And what it is, the four truths are that, in order to have a fulfilled life, there are some basic beliefs that I have seen getting in the way that, you'd be probably happier with if you could, work through. And that's that you are safe, that you're worthy, that you're lovable, and that you're connected to something bigger than yourself.
One more time. Safe, worthy,
lovable, and connected to something bigger than yourself.
Huh.
You're not alone out there working in a vacuum, right? There are connections in this world. And then there's a small chapter on physical symptoms of stress, because you can change those with your beliefs as well.
It's interesting. I'm fascinated by that, especially safe. One of my guests a while back was a gentleman named Michael Leibowitz, who helps people craft the perfect messages that their clients actually will be attracted to. And he's a brilliant guy. I think he's a neuropsychologist. I know he studied, the neuropsychology of how the brain works. And one of the things that he says is most important is in all our messaging, our goal is how do we make the prospect feel safe? Because people want to feel safe. And a lot of the times we don't in life. We're scared of everything. Yes. So it's how do we get our messaging? So I love that you said that. Fascinating. By the way, something popped into my head before that I forgot to ask you about. With the computer problems, do you back up your computer somewhere?
Oh, yeah, okay. I do. But it's not a real time. Well, it is a real time, but so I've got two services that back it up. And I do a hard backup once a month, but still.
Yeah.
Rebuilding is, I mean, I've done it before. When they rebuild the whole operating system and then you have to load all the stuff back, it's a 2 or 3 day thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm constantly
And you're
backing
never
up.
really sure, was everything back that I wanted? Yeah.
And does it come into the same place too? I use Carbonite to back up
Me
constantly. It's
too. Yeah.
constantly running. I think it's great. It's fairly inexpensive, and it saved my ass more than once. I was when my kids were a little younger, I was in the living room one time, and my son was playing on my computer, which always makes me nervous because it's my work computer. He
Right.
called me, he said, "Dad, I think something is wrong." And I walked in, and I had the blue screen of death, and there was nothing I could figure out to do it. And I took the computer, and your motherboard's fried. You need a new computer, or we can order you a new motherboard, which is going to be more expensive than buying a new computer.
Yeah.
But then thankfully everything had been backed up to Carbonite. But you're right, it took, I think, a day and a half to download everything back to my computer, and then I had to find where it really was, because things are in different places sometimes. So yeah, I'm a big fan of consistently backing up your computer, because one of my favorite phrases in life is "you never know," which is why I'll go out on almost any blind date. But you never know when something's going to go wrong. It's not like your computer says, "Okay, a week from now you're going to be screwed, so you better take care of it now."
Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
There was something else I found fascinating. I believe this was a LinkedIn post. You said that people don't always know what they want. We are not encouraged to dream, to think about possibilities, potentials, and to get in touch with that inner knowing. I think I know what you're talking about, but can you explain, what is that inner knowing you're talking about, and how does that affect us?
Well, if we get really, really quiet, and different people have different terminology for this, but there is a wisdom that each of us can access. And depending on your spiritual belief system, it can show up in different ways. But if you get really, really quiet, you can find out some really important things about where you're going, what you need, who you are, that type of thing, right? Uh, when I work with clients, I'm not going to tell them what their best belief is for whatever they want. They need to figure that out themselves. I'm the facilitator. I can help them install that new belief, but I'm not going to be the one to choose it. I can ask questions to help lead them along the path, because sometimes that's hard for people. But they have to like figure out, what is it that I really want? What resonates with me? What's the thing that's going to be important for my feeling fulfilled or happy, or whatever it is that they're trying to go for. So, and it's there. Sometimes they don't know what it is. Sometimes they don't trust it, but everybody's got access to that wisdom. They just have to build the habit of getting in touch with it.
Yeah, I kind of thought that was what you meant. I have the same philosophy. I mean, some people call that inner wisdom God. I personally don't, which is why a guy with the last name Goldberg is doing this on a Friday of Rosh Hashanah.
Oh my gosh, I hadn't thought about that. Yeah.
But I've studied for over 40 years with all kinds of gurus about personal growth and quantum mechanics and things like that. And I believe we are all connected to a universal wisdom. Again, some people call it God. It doesn't matter what you call it, but I believe that we always know the right thing to do, and we just often either don't trust ourselves. Well, how could I really know the right thing to do? Or we hear it and we just ignore it.
Yeah.
Feminine intuition, gut instinct, but we're talking about the same thing here, right?
Yes, we are.
Yeah. Yes. So I guess the question is, how do we really act? I guess many of us have these unconscious or subconscious beliefs that are preventing us from trusting ourselves when we really actually do know the answer most of the time.
Absolutely. Good point. Yeah.
Gotcha. I know you recently moved, and tell us about the process you went through in deciding to move, because I found that fascinating on your blog. So how did you decide that, and what process can we use to make life choices?
Okay. Well, I knew I didn't want to be where I was.
And where were you?
I was in Florida, and I'm not a Florida girl, right? And so I'm from Virginia, but I wasn't necessarily thinking about coming home back to Richmond, where I am now and where I had been before. But I knew I wanted to be somewhere else, right? And I had thought intentional communities sounded good. So I did a lot of research in what those might be like, and realized that those were a little more communal than I wanted, because I don't want to own my next place, right? I've owned my house for almost 50 years, a house, not the same one. And I'm ready to just be able to pick up a phone when something's not working, to the same phone number, and whatever the problem is, somebody else will take care of it. And so I didn't want to own anymore. I didn't want to be in Florida anymore. And so I was just looking for where it would be good, where it would be a sense of community that was intentional already there. And so I did a lot of researching about that, and realized that probably wasn't what I was really looking for. So I ended up deciding I would come back to Richmond, and so that's what I did. Yeah, but it was listening to myself of, well, what would this be like? What was it? It's those examples, right? What is it I'm looking for? And what would examples be like in each of the scenarios that I imagined? And I could see, there were some of them like, well, I don't want that. All right, let's try something. All right, well, I don't want that, and so it was kind of living them in my mind to see what it felt like. And that was how I went through the process, which is what I would recommend to anybody who's trying to make a decision. Figure out what it is you want and how is it going to look. And if that, proceed from there, right? If it's, sometimes you don't know what you're asking for, right?
Yeah. So the easy part was figuring out what you don't want. It's a little bit harder to figure out what you do want. Yeah. I had never heard the phrase, I wrote it down, intentional communities before. I think I know what you're talking about. What's an intentional community?
There's a whole spectrum of them, from, a commune to you buy a house in a neighborhood that has a common set of values. Maybe they want to be, conserving water, or maybe, it can be anything from you're living in a dorm with people and hand over all your money to you're owning your own property, but just know that the neighbors are probably got some of the same value sets, right? So it can be, it's a broad spectrum. I didn't want any of the ownership parts. I really liked the idea of being in a community where there were, enough common values, and not everybody's gonna be the same, and you don't want them to all be the same. I like diversity, but some basic value principle things that would be similar. But the ones where you didn't own your own home, there was a lot more common area, common use types of things than I was prepared for. I like to have my own four walls. I want to do my own laundry. I want a kitchen I can cook in if I choose to, and a place where other people are eating together if I choose to do that. Those sounded good, but the more I looked into it, it sounded a little bit more communal than I wanted.
Yeah. I don't know how old you are, but, I grew up in the days of hippies and communes, and that never sounded great to me.
Yeah.
I'm a little too independent. I don't mind that there's Trump signs on some houses and Harris signs on others. I like a little diversity. I'd like a little more of one than the other right now, but hopefully one way or the other, that's going to get resolved in about a month and a day. But yeah, living with a bunch of people in the same rooms and stuff like that. I actually value my solitude.
Yeah, me too.
I like, other than my dog, there's pretty much nobody I want to hang out with all the time. I love being with my kids, but and I enjoy when friends come over to visit, and it's like, okay, good to see you. Now get out.
Yeah, exactly. Even some HOAs are like that, where you have to look, they're very restrictive with the rules. And it's like, that never appealed to me either. So, and I don't want somebody telling me if I can or can't have a dog or a cat, or what size it needs to be. Or
Absolutely. Unfortunately, the government has not yet outlawed TikTok, and I do look at it, and boy, there's all kinds of stuff on there about HOA presidents coming to people's doors, and your grass is a quarter inch too big, and all kinds of insane stuff. And my question in my mind is, didn't you know this before you moved in? Why would you want to move into a community that can regulate all that stuff? I'm with you. I want to do what I want to do when I want to do it, and if I want to paint my house red or green or purple, then that's what I'm going to do. Actually, maybe
Right.
I know what I'm going to be doing this weekend. I see we're starting to run out of time. There are a couple more things I wanted to ask about. One of them was love languages. What are love languages, and how do our unconscious beliefs often make it hard for us to speak some of our love languages?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's been a lot there. There was the book, The Love Languages, where people don't couple, and it was the first one was about couples communicating. And some people might feel like they're loved if their partner has, spends time with them, and others might want gifts, and others might like gifts of service. Right? That was always my favorite. Is when my kids, what do you want? Wash my windows for Christmas. It was seriously, that was one of the best ones I ever had. That was brilliant. We had between us 5 daughters, and it was like we got the whole has all the windows washed one Christmas, and it was like yay. Uh,
Wow.
but so there are different languages that people use when they're expressing love, and there are different ones that people prefer when they're receiving it, right? And I started thinking about that. I guess it was last year for shortly after Valentine's Day, of there are probably subconscious beliefs that are also interacting with that are making it harder to communicate with anybody. It doesn't have to be a romantic partnership. It can be any relationship, right? Where, you want to be appreciated and you want the other person to know that they're appreciated. And if you're not communicating in a way that the other one can understand, you're likely to not feel as appreciated as you'd like, right?
Mm.
So I started thinking about, well, subconscious beliefs, right? Is some people don't feel comfortable being complimented. We all know people who deflect compliments, or it's like, oh, this whole thing, I got it out of the trash, or no, I know the project was really good and I was leading it, but it was all luck or the team, or they can't take words of affirmation. Basically, that's some of that subconscious beliefs where they don't feel like they deserve it. It feels awkward for somebody to tell them something nice about themselves. Sometimes people can't even say what they're good at, right? I've had clients that can't say the words, I'm proud of myself. So it was that got me started on it. The gifts, right? Some people are just, they feel overwhelmed if you give them a gift, and they feel like they need to over give back because it feels too much for them to handle. And so those are all indications of subconscious beliefs that are making you unable to just say, thank you. This is lovely. I appreciate it. I'm glad you think that much of me. Right. And so that's where I started looking into it. I put together a little like video series that could help people think about where this might be showing up and causing problems for them.
Where can people find that?
If they go to my website, they can find it there. There's a link to get to it.
I love the idea of washing the windows as a gift, because I always say there are no coincidences in life. So I've told my kids from a very young age, no gifts for dad. You're the gift. Make me a card. Don't even buy me a card. You never have to buy me a gift. Save your money. Buy a gift for your mom. Buy gifts for yourself. You don't have to buy me. And I've actually thought about it. I think a lot of it comes from divorced dad guilt, and I didn't do enough for them. I don't want it. But I actually don't mind saying, you know what? I do want some gifts. And the next gift is vacuum the house and wash the windows for me. I like that. And clean the bathroom too. That would be a great gift.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I've always preferred that. When the kids were little and didn't have money, that's something they could do that I could value too. Right.
Sure.
They could tell I appreciated it. And, so
I love that idea. And something else you wrote about, which I was interested in, what's the difference between showing off and showing up? And in relation to that, could you please tell us about the I love you mirror exercise?
Yeah. I love you. I'm not sure that that's mine. I think that's a Louise Hay thing, but showing off, we're all taught you shouldn't be boastful. You don't want to like tell everybody how great you are and just go around, being that braggart. Right. at the same time, it goes back to being able to know what you're good at, what your strengths are, where you've been successful, and owning it, right? I mean, you got to know, I mean, you don't have to know, but it feels better if you're comfortable with the things that you do well and can claim them as things that you are strengths of your own, right? Or things that went well. Certainly, if you're part of a team, there's always group effort. You know, you got to acknowledge them, but you can't always say, well, it was only the team every time. You know, I mean, that's not taking credit that you've earned. So just being able to see and be honest about it and authentic about it. You don't need to tell everybody about all the stuff, but if it comes up, you need to be able to own it.
Gotcha. And what's the mirror exercise that Louise Hayes?
Yeah, that's kind of the same thing as people who can't say I'm proud of myself, right? I mean, I know people who, and this is in Louise Hay. She's the one who has a lot of work all around this, but people who can't look in the mirror eye to eye with themselves and say, I love you, right? And it's one of the first places I start when people come to me with relationship patterns of, you know, whether, I don't know why I keep ending up with the same person, the same situation, and it's not what I want. Usually we find that there are subconscious beliefs where they don't love and support themselves. And so you start with yourself first, and then, you know, you see if there are other beliefs that are related to other people relationships, right? But you got to get the one with yourself healthy first.
So you're actually looking in the mirror and telling yourself that you love you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
some people cannot do that. I know people who cannot do that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Fascinating. Wow. Well, time flew. I'm going to share my screen, and so people can see how to reach you if they're interested. However, this will be, you know, this is live right now, but this will also be converted into a podcast. And for those who cannot see this, how can people reach you if they're interested?
Well, my website is the best place, Aligned Consciousness, and so ALIGNED consciousness.com. And I'm also on LinkedIn. I've got a Facebook page, business page, Aligned Consciousness. So, you know, any of those ways is a good way to find me. And I'm always happy if people hear things that intrigue them. They can book a free 15-minute phone call. I can answer questions that everybody wants to know more about their own situation or how what I do works or that type of thing. Always happy to talk to people.
And is there an email address or a phone number you want to give out, or you just stick with LinkedIn and your website?
Well, if you go to the website, there's a contact page, or, you know, alignedconsciousness@gmail.com works. Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, fantastic. I love talking to you, Judy, and I really appreciate you taking the time to share your brilliance with us today. And I will end as I always do, gang. Please remember that sales is a game of making things happen. So get out there and make sales happen. Have a great weekend, everybody. Have a great weekend, Judy. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jeff.